So there I was, the smell of moving truck exhaust still choking the Colorado air after my 1,200-mile drive, when this woman in a blinding neon green velour tracksuit strutted across my driveway in 4-inch designer heels and slammed a $750 violation ticket on my windshield like she was serving divorce papers. Commercial vehicle in residential zone. Immediate $750 fine, she snapped, her voice dripping with fake politeness while her eyes screamed, I own you. Hi folks, I'm Nate Ellison, and that HOA president Victoria Langford, or as the neighbors secretly called her Queen Vicky, had zero idea she just declared war on the guy who'd spent 15 years auditing crooked property managers for a living. She didn't even wait for me to kill the engine. While I stood there in my dusty jeans, still reeking of cheap gas station coffee and bad decisions, Vicky circled my U-Haul like a shark in Lululemon, her phone camera clicking away faster than a slot machine on payday. Aesthetic harmony disrupted, she announced, waving a pre-printed citation thicker than a phone book. Mailbox height non-compliant. Grass length exceeds 2.25 inches in the northeast quadrant. Doormat color, taupe is not on the approved beige palette. And that U-Haul? Parked longer than the 2-hour maximum driveway occupancy rule. That's another $500 right there. Total. $2,800 due in 48 hours or lien proceedings begin. She smiled the kind of smile that makes you check if your wallet is still in your pocket. I blinked, trying to process the fact that I hadn't even carried in my first box of socks yet. Across the street, curtains twitched. An elderly lady in a pink housecoat slammed her blinds so fast I heard the plastic rattle. A guy washing his already spotless Lexus suddenly found urgent business under the hood. These people weren't just nosy, they looked terrified, like they'd seen this movie before and knew the ending sucked. Vicky noticed me noticing. The previous owner, she said sweetly, tapping her clipboard, also struggled with compliance before her unfortunate passing. We hate to lose good neighbors that way. The way she said unfortunate made the August heat feel like a walk-in freezer. I kept my face neutral. Years of staring down embezzling CFOs taught me that much, and asked politely to see the covenants and the last 3 years of financials. You'd have thought I'd ask for her browser history and her husband's search terms. Those are confidential board documents, Mr. Ellison, she cooed, already backing toward her pristine white Range Rover. Formal request through the management company, 30-day processing, non-refundable $150 admin fee. Then she leaned in, perfume so thick it could strip paint. And just so we're clear, I've been president here for 9 years. We keep things harmonious. Disruptors, well, they usually decide to sell. Quickly. She clicked away, leaving me with a stack of embossed pink slips that smelled like entitlement and cheap vanilla candles. That night I sat in Great Aunt Vivian's kitchen, the one she'd left me in her will after the company decided 15 years of forensic accounting was redundant, and my ex decided our house looked better with her new Pilates instructor in it, and stared at those finds. The house itself was perfect. Corner lot, her famous rose bushes still blooming like they'd never heard of rules, American flag snapping proudly on the porch. But the folder the lawyer had handed me mentioned ongoing disputes with the HOA. I figured it was old lady stuff, maybe a garden gnome rebellion. Sweet summer child that I was. Next morning the certified letter arrived before my coffee finished brewing. Now the total was $3,450 thanks to late processing fees and administrative escalation. Time-stamped photos from every angle, professional grade. Like she'd hired a crime scene photographer to document my mailbox's tragic paint chips. She'd CC'd the county, a lawyer whose name sounded like he specialized in foreclosing on orphanages, and the community management firm. Classic Vicky move. Escalate first, ask questions never. But here's what Queen Vicky didn't know. When you've spent your career tracing money through shell companies and fake invoices, you learn to read fine print the way other people read menus. And the original 1982 covenants for Maple Ridge Estates were 12 pages of reasonable neighbor guidelines. Somehow they'd ballooned into a 47-page manifesto covering everything from approved flagpole ratios to no visible children's toys after 6 p.m. Most of those changes had never been voted on by homeowners, which meant legally, they carried the same weight as a grocery list written in crayon. I drove straight to the county recorder's office, fluorescent hell, zombie clerks, the works, and pulled every public record I could. What I found made my accountant brain light up like a Christmas tree wired to a power plant. The landscaping contract? $3,200 a month for mowing 49 tiny yards. Market rate was $800. The company, Sterling Greens LLC, was owned by Vicky's little brother, a 24-year-old whose last job was social media influencer for protein shakes. The pool service? Elite Aquatics, Vicky's boyfriend Chad's side hustle. The pool itself looked like a science experiment in biohazard green. Legal fees? $22,000 a year for compliance enforcement. Most HOAs spend $2,000 max. Apparently mailbox height violations required the kind of legal firepower usually reserved for Fortune 500 mergers. I was still digesting the numbers when Glenda, 79, retired librarian, eyes sharp as tax audit season, materialized at my back door with a plate of cookies and a folder thick enough to stop a bullet. "You're asking the right questions," she whispered, glancing over her shoulder like we were planning a prison break. "Someone finally needs to." Inside that folder, 12 families targeted in 3 years. Same playbook, impossible deadlines, fines that tripled overnight, forced quick sales at below market prices. Whose real estate brokerage always got the listings? 3 guesses. 3 elderly owners had already been steamrolled out. 1 guy got cited for his American flag being improperly proportioned. A single mom was fined because her kids left a bicycle visible from the street. Black humor at its finest. Queen Vicky preached community values while running a suburban protection racket. That afternoon Vicky returned with backup, Chad and a fake security badge that probably came with a cereal box. They demanded interior inspection for covenant compliance. I smiled, mentioned the Fourth Amendment, and casually dropped, loud enough for the neighbors watering their perfect lawns to hear. Funny how the HOA budget shows $48,000 in landscaping last year, but the contractor only got $18,000. Makes you wonder where the other $30,000 went, doesn't it? The silence was so complete I heard a squirrel drop its acorn 3 houses down. Vicky's face cycled through every shade of rage available in the approved beige palette. Chad suddenly remembered an urgent appointment elsewhere. They peeled out in the Range Rover, but not before Vicky hissed, "You'll regret making enemies in this neighborhood, Mr. Ellison." Regret? Sweetheart, I was just getting started. The next morning a city code enforcement truck showed up. Anonymous tip about an abandoned commercial vehicle. The inspector took one look at my perfectly legal pickup, apologized for wasting both our time, and leaned in. "Caller knew your exact address and truck description at 6:03 a.m. Real specific for a random passerby." 2 hours later the state contractor licensing board called. Someone had reported me running an unlicensed business from my residence. I explained I wasn't. Case closed in 5 minutes, but the message was crystal clear. Queen Vicky played dirty. That night, 2:17 a.m., gravel crunched outside. I watched through the blinds as the white Range Rover crept past like a suburban stalker. Next morning my mailbox wore fresh spray paint, random squiggles designed to trigger another violation, and a lovely pile of dog waste decorated my welcome mat with surgical precision. Good thing I'd installed cameras the day I arrived. Footage was gold. Vicky's plate, Chad skulking like the world's least competent ninja. Black humor level expert. The woman who fined people for unsightly emotions after dusk was now literally dumping crap on my porch. While she played amateur vandal, I dove deeper into the financial rabbit hole. The mineral rights on Aunt Vivian's property, a small natural gas deposit, had been paying royalties for 4 years. Those royalties were supposed to go to the homeowner. Instead, they'd been quietly funneled into the HOA general fund with Vicky as sole signatory. $18,000 of my aunt's money. That single fact gave me legal standing for a full forensic audit. And hidden in Aunt Vivian's attic safe, key taped inside her ancient recipe box between apple pie instructions and pot roast secrets, was 5 years of meticulously gathered evidence. Audio recordings of Vicky admitting to creative accounting, forged signature pages on covenant changes that never went to a vote, bank statements showing systematic theft disguised as community improvements. The more I dug, the more neighbors quietly showed up. Bob, Vietnam vet with hands like cured leather, brought beer and an engineering report proving thousands had been billed for road repairs that never happened. Sophia, single mom and paralegal, offered to help draft cease and desist letters. Pastor Williams stopped by after Vicky tried to fine the church for excessive Sunday parking. Even the mailman started slipping me sympathetic nods. Queen Vicky's reign of terror had finally met its match. A quiet forensic accountant who knew exactly how to follow the money and make it scream. By week 3, the harassment had gone nuclear. Vicky filed a police report claiming I'd aggressively confronted her and made threatening statements about her finances. Officer Ramirez showed up looking like he'd rather be chasing actual criminals. He took one look at my security footage and the bogus complaint evaporated. When Vicky demanded he arrest me for intimidating a public official, because apparently being HOA president now counted as public service, Ramirez shut her down cold. "Ma'am, asking for financial transparency isn't a crime." Filing false reports, however, the look on her face was pure poetry. Suburban dictator realizing the peasants had found the pitchforks. That desperation told me everything. People don't escalate this fast unless they're terrified of what might come out. So I kept quiet, kept collecting. Sophia's legal research uncovered the shell company connections. Every vendor was tied to Vicky's family or inner circle. Chad's pool company, Brothers Landscaping, college roommates' law firm, all charging luxury resort rates for services that barely existed. The pool looked like it had been green since the Clinton administration. The security system was one broken camera pointed at a tree. Yet the budget showed $47,000 in infrastructure upgrades last year. Classic embezzlement wrapped in HOA letterhead. My informal coffee meetups at the corner diner turned into underground resistance sessions. 23 residents showed up to the latest one, swapping horror stories that would make a mafia don blush. Mrs. Patterson got fined for excessive memorial decorations after putting up a small flag for her late husband. The Johnson kids were cited because their chalk drawings on their own driveway lasted longer than the temporary art limit. Bob's engineering report read like a forensic indictment. Drainage work that existed only on paper, road repairs that never happened. The pattern was surgical: target the elderly, the single parents, anyone who looked like they couldn't fight back. While the McMansion 3 doors down had actual code violations that magically never appeared on any inspection. Vicky's response was predictable. Rumors. My layoff was suddenly suspicious. I was not the right fit for Maple Ridge values. Fake social media accounts popped up calling me an outside agitator. The racial undertones weren't subtle. Apparently every guy who moved from California was automatically suspect. She even hired a discount private investigator to dig up dirt. The PI's report must have been disappointing because the only scandal they found was that I once parked in a fire zone in 2017. Still, the whispers worked on a few holdouts. Fear is a hell of a drug, and Queen Vicky had been dealing it for years. But while she was busy constructing her house of lies, I was building my house of evidence. Every violation notice, every suspicious transaction, every 2 a.m. drive-by got documented with obsessive detail. Aunt Vivian's final letter, written 2 weeks before her heart attack, sat on my kitchen table like a loaded gun. "Nate, if you're reading this, Barbara has probably tried to destroy what's left of our community. I gathered everything I could, but I'm too old to finish the fight." "Maybe you aren't. Make them pay." Her doctor's records, subpoenaed as part of the inheritance, showed blood pressure spiking exactly when Vicky's harassment campaign began. The stress had literally killed her. That changed everything. This wasn't just about my fines anymore. This was about honoring a woman who'd spent her last months trying to protect her neighbors from a predator. The emergency HOA board meeting Vicky called, with only 24 hours notice, violating her own bylaws, was the first crack in her armor. She tried to ram through foreclosure proceedings on my house as the sole agenda item. Only 3 of 5 board members showed. The other 2 suddenly had scheduling conflicts. No quorum, no legal vote. Glenda stood up like an avenging librarian and cited Robert's Rules of Order with the precision of a sniper. Vicky lost it. Actually screamed at a 79-year-old woman, calling her a meddling old busybody. The mask slipped completely. Suburban princess to raging tyrant in 3 seconds flat. The neighbors watching via the community Zoom link. Yes, she tried to ban recordings, we recorded anyway, saw everything. That meltdown bought me time to finish the forensic package. My attorney Jennifer, 15 years crushing corrupt HOAs, had court-ordered the full financials. What spilled across my dining room table was breathtaking. Over $420,000 vanished through fake invoices, phantom improvements, and those mineral royalties. Vicky hadn't just skimmed. She built a full-scale suburban crime syndicate. And the best part? She still thought she was dealing with one angry new guy asking annoying questions. She had no clue Aunt Vivian had spent years building an ironclad case, and that I now held every piece. The annual HOA meeting was mandatory by state law, and couldn't be canceled once proper notice went out. 67% homeowner attendance required for major votes. My coffee shop intelligence network had commitments from 32 households. Vicky tried everything to stop it, claimed security concerns, hired rent-a-cops who quit when they realized they were being asked to intimidate seniors, spread rumors I was planning a gang takeover. The gang consisted of retired librarians and veterans. Nothing worked. The community center on meeting day buzzed like a hive about to swarm. 73 residents packed a room built for 50. Local news cameras in the back. Vicky arrived late, flanked by Chad and 3 relatives, wearing a navy blazer and carrying a briefcase full of threats. She tried to seize control immediately. Remove me for disruptive behavior. Fast-track foreclosure. Glenda was on her feet before Vicky finished the first sentence. Point of order. You cannot conduct official business without a quorum, and you cannot remove homeowners without due process. The room erupted in applause. I took the floor with the calm that comes from holding 4 aces and a royal flush. I started with Aunt Vivian, how she'd loved this community, fed stray cats, raised 3 kids alone after Uncle Frank died in Vietnam. Then I hit them with the visuals. Financial charts showing $420,000 missing, before and after photos of improvements that never existed, audio of Vicky calling residents sheep who need someone to make decisions for them. Gasps. Weeping from the elderly. Angry shouts when the selective enforcement patterns became clear. Elderly and single parents targeted while her own circle got free passes. When Vicky tried to interrupt, screaming about lies and outside agitators, I played the recording from the night she showed up at my door with a duffel bag of cash, $50,000 restitution to put this unpleasantness behind us. Her own voice crystal clear. You understand how these communities work, right? The residents are sheep. Single-party consent state, perfectly legal. Chad tried to claim it was edited. My attorney shut that down with Colorado statute. The room went dead silent for 3 seconds, then exploded. FBI Financial Crimes Agent Martinez, who'd been sitting quietly in the back, stood up and announced formal charges were being prepared. Mail fraud, wire fraud, embezzlement. State Attorney General pursuing civil penalties. Vicky's real estate license suspended immediately. The community vote was unanimous. Entire board removed, independent management company hired, criminal prosecution approved by acclamation. Vicky's meltdown was broadcast live on local news, screaming about conspiracies while Chad physically dragged her out. I delivered the line I'd practiced for weeks. Aunt Vivian taught me communities are built on trust, not fear. Today we take ours back. 6 months later the headlines said it all. Former HOA president sentenced to 5 years federal prison for embezzlement and fraud. Chad got 22 months as accomplice. Asset seizure recovered $380,000, enough to actually fix the pool, drop monthly fees from $195 to $89, and build the new playground the kids had been fined for dreaming about. My new consulting firm, helping HOAs clean up their own messes, took off like a rocket. Colorado even passed tighter audit requirements, unofficially nicknamed Vivian's Law, in the property management world. Maple Ridge Estates looks different now. Kids draw on driveways without fear. Flags fly any size. Neighbors talk instead of hiding behind curtains. Aunt Vivian's rose bushes bloom bigger than ever, and every evening someone puts out fresh food for the stray cats. Property values are up 12% because honest management turns out to be better for real estate than tyranny wrapped in pastel rules. So tell me in the comments, was I wrong for fighting back against the HOA president who tried to bankrupt me before I even unpacked? Or was she the real one violating every community standard she claimed to protect? Who was truly at fault here, the guy who followed the money, or the queen who thought the rules would never apply to her? Drop your wildest HOA horror story below. If this tale of suburban justice hit different, smash that like button, subscribe for more stories where the little guy wins, and remember, sometimes the most powerful weapon in the neighborhood isn't a pitchfork. It's a paper trail. See you next time when Karen tries to steal my parking spot and has no idea I own the entire block. Stay vigilant out there.